Wow. Just wow. What a beautifully written and profound piece of work this is. And it even features the post-lesbian breakup haircut. She has the range, darling. Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video we're just going to be discussing The Safekeep by Yael van der Wouden. I do apologise if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. It's because I have one brain cell and she's been threatening to leave me for quite a while now. Don't leave me, baby. I can change. If you're not familiar with The Safekeep, it's a historical fiction that follows a woman named Isabel, who has built herself a solitary life of discipline and strict routine in her late mother's country home, but has her life upended when her brother Louis delivers his graceless new girlfriend Eva at Isabel's doorstep as a guest, there to stay for the season. In the sweltering heat of summer, Isabel's desperate need for control reaches boiling point, and what happens between the two women leads to a revelation which threatens to unravel all she has ever known. First of all, for the most part, the writing in this book is intelligent, smooth, and in places poetic. Wouden has a real talent for crafting atmosphere and tension, for utilising symbolism and themes to enhance narrative and to portray characterisation, and also for creating authentic and intriguing characters whose mannerisms, personalities and behaviours tell a story within themselves. Now, in terms of the book being historical lesbian fiction, I don't know that I'd describe the framework for The Safekeep as necessarily unique. You know, the character dynamics and narrative structure are somewhat familiar and reminiscent of a condensed Sarah Waters novel, but the book is so thoughtfully written and it explores profound themes in such a poignant way that despite its familiar elements, it does very much stand out as its own piece of work. I think the aspect of The Safekeep I enjoyed the most is definitely the characters. As I said earlier, all of them are thoughtfully written and intriguing, and I am a sucker for damaged, complicated, and unlikable characters. And the main character of this book, Isabel, is exactly that. She's this prickly, cloistered, paranoid, suspicious, and just all around sour being. And she's also deeply repressed and has trouble understanding and regulating her emotions, which often causes her to lash out either verbally or physically. And there's just so much delicious complexity in her character and behaviors that was both recognizably human and enthralling to read about. The way Eva is written is also fascinating. She's introduced to us as this crude, performer-esque figure, but one who displays momentary cracks in the facade. And I appreciated the detail of how the closer it came in the narrative to Eva's true identity being revealed, and the more her relationship with Isabel grew, the plainer, more like herself Eva started to look. What's also interesting in terms of characterization is that in the beginning of the book, Eva and Isabel are set up as polar opposites. But as the book goes on and peels back more and more layers of their respective characters, clear parallels and similarities begin to appear between the two. I also love the portrayal of Isabel's repressed sexuality and hunger for women manifesting through her behaviors. For example, Isabel biting into her childhood friend after the friend gushes over her brother and then insults her, and that bite so vividly portrayed Isabel's jealousy, hurt, frustration, and her hunger for the same sex. And this is also later paralleled with Isabel biting Eva in the car after the subject of Eva staying with Louis comes up, which again portrays those same emotions of hurt, frustration, and desire from Isabel. But unlike with the childhood friend who tears away from Isabel's bite, Eva leans into it because that primal desire in the action is understood and reciprocated. And then of course there's the famous pear scene. I mean, yes, using fruit to symbolize sexual desire, particularly female homosexual desire, it's a little cliche. I mean, I'm guilty of using it too. A true classic. Never goes out of style, etc. But regardless of that, I just love the way the scene of Isabel devouring the pear was written. It was so vivid and it really highlighted the depth and desperation of her desire. A lot of people love the pear scene in this book, and for good reason. The Safekeep also contains a lot of other symbolism and themes, which reflect or enhance characterization and relationship dynamics. For example, there is a theme of the most significant romantic interactions between Eva and Isabel, such as the offering of the pair, the moments of jealousy and possessiveness, and their first kiss, taking place in the kitchen. And this is significant because, as discussed in my last video about another piece of media, funnily enough, the kitchen represents femininity and nourishment. So that backdrop complements and underscores the Sapphic desire in Eva and Isabel's interactions. And alongside this, the kitchen also represents domesticity and motherhood. And so the scene where Isabel is washing the crockery that, unbeknownst to her, belonged to Eva's mother before her own, with Eva observing this taking place in the kitchen, contains layers and connects to the motherhood aspects of the narrative. There's also a theme of throat grabbing between Eva and Isabel throughout the book, which is symbolic of their mistrust and hostility for one another intermingled with their primal lust and desire. And alongside this, there's also a lot of hair symbolism sprinkled throughout the book, which again connects to and emphasizes the themes of lust, motherhood, the feminine, but also violence and trickery. So as we can see, the tapestry of themes and symbolism in this book is very thoughtful. As for the lesbian element of the book, the relationship between Isabel and Eva is probably one of its most engaging aspects. It's layered, meaningful, complex, and magnetic. Now, I've seen some criticisms of this book with people saying that they didn't feel like the attraction and the tension between Eva and Isabel was built up enough to justify their relationship. But I don't agree. A lot of their early interactions in the book, including the seemingly more hostile ones, are laced with underlying romantic and sexual suggestion. The tension and attraction was always very much brewing in the unspoken between them. And this is a book which portrays the characters' feelings and desires through symbolism, through subtle behaviors and expressions. So I don't want to sound patronizing, but I think reading between the lines is important with this book. And apart from that, both Eva and Isabel are complicated characters. And when you consider the repression, resentment, deceit, and internalized homophobia that's in the mix, the way their relationship unfolded in the book makes a lot of sense. Personally speaking, I really enjoyed how unhinged Isabel's behavior towards Eva was in the first half of the book. The secret obsession, the intense fixation, and the low-level stalking, all whilst trying to maintain an air of hostility and indifference. It was giving Scorpio placements. And possession, especially to that which holds emotional attachment, is a huge theme in this book. And I thought it was interesting how Isabel's obsessive and possessive nature over Eva mirrored her obsessive and possessive nature over the house and its belongings. I also think their love scenes were well written. I enjoyed the love scenes as a simple homosexual woman. I've seen some reviews of the book complaining about it being too explicit, but personally, I don't think it is. Maybe reading Bloomtown has skewered my perception of what's explicit or not. I don't know. I mean, the love scenes are adult, but they're mostly described in a poetic and suggestive manner. And I appreciated how, despite the Safekeep being such a short book, the relationship between Isabel and Eva felt fulfilling and complete. I wasn't left wanting more. It was the whole cake, not just crumbs. Delicious. As mentioned earlier, there are a lot of parallels between Isabel and Eva that are slowly uncovered as the narrative unfolds. For example, they are two women who are both hiding their true selves in different ways. Isabel with her sexuality and Eva with her motivations for being at the house. And it's interesting how both women reveal their true selves through their relationship with one another. Isabel and Eva also both have a fierce emotional attachment to the house and what it represents in terms of their family family ties and history. And they also both view it as a source of security and safety. So all of this makes the fact that they end up reconciling and both residing in the house by the end of the book all the more meaningful. And there's so much meaning and emotion poured into the house through both Isabel and Eva's attachment to it that it feels almost as though it is this living, breathing thing. It's really interesting. Isabel and Eva are also both deeply traumatized characters, and I thought it was beautiful that they discovered and healed parts of themselves through each other. Isabel is trapped within her own repression, grief, and loneliness, and Eva breaks down those walls and allows her to experience true love and connection for the very first time. And Eva is carrying all of this loss and trauma from the war, from poverty, and the injustice of losing her family home due to the Holocaust. And through her relationship with Isabel, she manages to regain some of what was lost, and that opens up space for healing. So I thought the ending that Walden gave Isabel and Eva was really beautiful and satisfying. I don't know if I'd describe it as happy exactly, because it does carry an emotional heaviness, but it's certainly hopeful, and considering how traumatized these two characters are and everything that they represent in terms of identity, it felt healing and meaningful that their story ended in a place of peace and love. Moving on to the narrative, Walden crafts a sense of mystery and intrigue in the story by opening it with the broken and buried piece of ceramic and the suggestion that Isabel is an overly paranoid and suspicious individual whose thoughts and feelings are perhaps unreliable. And because of all of this, I honestly thought it was going to be revealed that Isabel had imagined Eva's list of stolen or recovered objects in the diary, or something similar to that. I was of the impression that the story was going to contain more of a psychological twist than an emotional one. And if I'm being honest, whilst reading the book, the plot twist reveal did feel a little underwhelming. But after finishing the book, I think I understand that the twist, or even the plot of the book, is not the point of it. This is a deeply romantic and sentimental piece of work which seeks to reflect real-world injustices that took place and explore emotionally weighted subjects and human complexities. So Isabel's characterization and the whole theme of possession, obsession, and suspicion ties into the emotional and personal aspects of the book as opposed to the plot. And I think because I ended up enjoying the emotional weight of the book, I didn't mind that it went in a direction that wasn't as thrilling or absorbing, perhaps, plot-wise. But that said, I do understand why a lot of people felt frustrated with the book narrative-wise, because it does set itself up as though it's going to be one thing and then goes in a totally different direction, which may not be everybody's cup of tea. The Safekeep is also set in post-war Netherlands, and it portrays the societal anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, and homophobia within that era. And I think the post-war aspect of this book is what makes it interesting, because in media there's often a lot of focus and the injustice and displacement that Jewish people faced before and during the Holocaust, but less so in the aftermath. And the Safekeep highlights how prejudice very much continued after the war and the lasting emotional devastation that occurred from the displacement. And the Safekeep highlights how anti-Semitism very much continued during the post-war era, and the lasting emotional devastation that occurred from the displacement. The injustices remained. And I think for the most part, the Safekeep explores discrimination and prejudice in an intelligent and meaningful way. It made a point to show rather than tell, and I appreciate that the book didn't make a spectacle out of prejudice or resort to trauma porn to try and get the message across. And I have to say, I found the book's portrayal of homosexuality in that era to be authentic in the way that it was never directly mentioned. It was always implied or talked around, which is a reflection of the fact that it was very much an unspoken and taboo topic in real life during that time, and Walden, captured that perfectly. I think the only real area of criticism I have about the Safekeep is the insertion of or reminder of male sexuality in connection to the first lesbian love scene. For example, Isabel letting Johann kiss her briefly and unexpectedly feeling his postal service right before she sleeps with Eva for the first time felt incredibly unnecessary. I know the author tries to explain the kiss as Isabel being caught up in sexual longing for Eva in that moment, but it just didn't really make any sense considering how repulsed Isabel was by him. And with Isabel being a lesbian character, I just didn't understand the point of it. On top of this, whilst Isabel is doing arts and crafts with Eva for the very first time, she recalls a memory of seeing her brother do arts and crafts, and it's described in some detail. And whilst it was brief, again, it just felt unnecessary. Why do we have to be reminded of male sexuality and heterosexuality both before and during a lesbian love scene? Why? That was a purposeful choice on the author's part, and it's frustrating that Isabel and Eva weren't allowed to have their first time be just about them. I mean, the presence or reminder of men and male sexuality in lesbian romances is such a tired trope. I hate it so much. It's gross. That's probably the only part of the book which made me side-eye it. But apart from that, it's a very beautiful piece of work. Overall, I think The Safekeep is a beautifully written and thought-provoking piece of work, and I'd give it 4 out of 5 stars. It's certainly one of the best, if not the best, Sapphic book I've read this year so far. So yeah, if you're a Sarah Waters fan, I think you will enjoy this. Okay guys, if you've read The Safekeep, let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment, and to see you guys soon. Bye!